and welcome to today's Battletech review. Today we're going to be looking at one of Clan Wolf's newer machines with the Tundra Wolf. It's a bit of an odd one because it was in production for a good 30 to 40 years, but the production on it stopped recently when the Clan Wolf just moved from where they used to live to just take up a huge spot in Lyran and Merrick space. Not gonna blame them. It was a nice place to move at. They probably had to take all the Volvos and all the things here with the U-Hauls and drag everything there, and they couldn't bring all the factories with them. But the Tundra Wolf itself, there's still quite a few of them around, and you're actually going to see them in more than just Clan Wolf's Toman because, well, there's a couple that were salvaged and captured by other people, but Clan Wolf actually sold a number of them as well to either Aus militaries or other clans. It's a standard battle mech and not an omni mech, but it does have a significant amount of variants. I mean, 5 variants for a modern machine is actually quite rare. You won't see that many usually. And they have a variety of different roles as well. So it's a diverse and functional little thing. So let's get into it. Clan Wolf was honestly not at the top of their games during the Jihad. Well, none of the clans really were. A lot of them had been kicked out of the Homeworld during the War of Reaving. The other clans were either fighting the Jihadis or trying to fight the Inner Sphere people that were still trying to recover their planets. But the Wolves really had the issue that they were split in 2 camps, with Vlad the Chad Ward and Felon Can Sleep on the Dad's couches, Ward on the other side. Basically, the 2 men had been at odds from a very long time when Felon was captured originally by the Wolves and then adopted. But, you know, they had each a different view of what Clan Wolf should be doing, with one of them really trying to protect the Inner Sphere, while the other was basically trying to protect themselves. They were 2 sides of the same coin, not actively at each other's throat most of the time, but both sides needed their own supply line, their own equipment, their own mech, and just about everything. While Clan Wolf and Exile squatted Lyran space and mostly Ark Royal, Vlad's Wolves had their own little territories squeezed between Clan Jade Falcon, the Ghost Bear, and Clan Elzors when they decided to show up later on. To say that it was a comfy location is an overstatement. They had enemies on all sides. Well, the bears were more unfriendly than enemies. But, you know, you also add all the Jihadis running around and the Lyrans at the very bottom there, always trying to recover planets that they lost. So it wasn't very comfy for them here. Thankfully, this old territory was quite rich in mineral resources and had a number of industrial plants by the mid-3070s. There's a few things I do not like about the clans, and one of them is that they like to rename companies and factories when they take them over, meaning that it's hard to follow what is really what. What became the W7 facilities on Tamar, Tranquil, and Weingarten were a combination of clan mobile facilities that they brought around in warships and dropships and dropped on various planets, and local industrial plexes that were repurposed for the usage of Clan Wolf. A lot of them actually building industrial mechs in the past, so, you know, it's an expansion of what they were able to do. All those factories produced a massive amount of spare parts and components for other mechs, but the main thing that they were working on was converting and upgrading Inner Sphere mechs to their 2C counterparts, as long as they used a similar chassis, like the Guillotine for the Guillotine 2C, the Islander for the Islander 2C, and the Orion for the Orion 2C. It's basically the same body, the same internals. Some of them are replaced with endo steel, but the concept itself is the same. It's mostly the weapons on them that are upgraded, which is easy enough to do once you know what you're doing. Those facilities also built spare parts for all sorts of things, ranging from the Timber Wolf to the Dire Wolf. But for the Timber Wolf there, they produced a couple a year and making them. So the whole design was not completely dead, but it was still very rough to get new ones. Vlad Ward famously said that he didn't want to build any advanced Omni-Mech close to Inner Sphere lines because he didn't want to get raided and them stolen. While this sounded like a great plan and advanced leadership there, it was more a case of, well, we barely are able to keep the stuff that we have going. This whole operation is not working as it should, and we need to build things as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So let's focus on simpler things so we can get this whole military going. Like I said, it was building some Timberwolf Succession War style here and making most of the parts and assembling them manually. Same with other Omni-Mechs being basically rebuilt from scrap, but the W7 facility was mostly going to be building standard battle mechs from that point onward. The W7 facility did introduce a new machine in 3076 as a new totem mech for a new clan wolf with the Tundra wolf. It wasn't incredibly complex, it was built mainly from off-the-shelf part that was available to clan wolf, and it was decently reliable and fairly easy to repair, which is important in that day and age. It was a far cry from many of the advanced Omni-Mechs that were available, but it was streamlined, quick to produce, and it could easily match just about any Inner Sphere mech that it could get its hands on, while also being quite challenging to clan warriors. It was a perfect storm of things, in a way. While it does have a lupine name, it does not have that lupine form that you have in many of the later Omni-Mech that became totem mechs, or even standard mechs that became totem mechs. But it was wholly functional. Some of those first Tundra wolves started helping out Devlin Stone and his coalition to break the back of the Word of Blake Jihad, and it proved its worth as a competent mech in that situation. The wolves kept the production up as long as they could, and they held Tamar and Weingarten, using this machine as an anchor for many of their heavy formations. With the wolves actually departing their own space to form the Wolf Empire, the production of the Tundra wolf halted, as the Ellsworths did not see a use to keep building them after they took over the territory. That's really the problem here with building a totem mech. If somebody is bringing in a different totem, well, they won't need to keep building it. Who knows? Maybe the Ellsworths will rename it the Tundra Horse or whatever, the Caribou or whatever, and build a new version of that thing for their own use. But I am not wholly sold on that idea either. At 75 tons, the Tundra Wolf is in the same bracket as your Timberwolf, meaning it has some big shoes to fill in that particular range. To keep production and maintenance simple, it uses the common enough 300 XL engine, which is probably one of the most common one out there, improved by a mask, which is similar to what the old Woodsman had, which is the predecessor to the Timberwolf. It also has a full set of jump jets, allowing you to go in the air for about 120 meters, making this fairly mobile overall. The body is made of endo steel, while it is protected by 14.5 tons of plates, which is comparable to the 12 tons of ferrofibers from the Timberwolf. Protection is enhanced by an ECM suite, at least on the base model, which was a necessity during the Jihad. The original Tundra Wolf has a bit of an eclectic weapon mix, but it works quite well together and is rather nasty. You have a full set of 4 ER medium lasers, a playset as we used to say there, in the right arm, which gives you a nasty little mid-range punch, and it's combined with an over-the-shoulder ER large laser, giving you a little bit more long range. At longer range, well, you have a large battery of various missiles as well. You've got a 9-tube of ATM in the arm with 3 tons of Lee load, so you can carry one of each or specialize in one of the particular range bands. And the shoulder has a 20 rack of LRMs, giving you more indirect fire support. And, well, it's clan LRMs, so pretty decent brawling as well. You have a set of Streak 4-tube of SRM on the other shoulder with the large laser, meaning that, well, you've got even things to blow up tanks when required. 17 double heat sinks will manage your heat fairly well as well, so this thing is overall pretty darn good. It's a little bit jam-packed with equipment, and if you start getting some internal hits, things are going to start blowing up or stop working. But it's usually enough to pack a nice enough punch to surprise just about any target that you're going to be facing. The second configuration, well, it's more of a variant since it's not an Omni here, is more meant as an heavy direct fire brawler and is still quite nasty. The ECM and half a ton of armor has to be stripped off, and most of the missile launchers are taken off, keeping only a 15 rack of LRM over the shoulder. The right arm still packs your medium laser module there, so still a very good mid-range punch there, and you add an extra 2 on the other arm and an ERPPC. meaning that you have an ER large laser, an ER PPC, 6 ER medium lasers. That's a whole lot of direct fire there. You've got 19 heat sinks because, well, you're going to need them with all those ER weapons, and a targeting computer to make sure that everything hits. This ends up being quite a scary thing. It would be worse if it was a bunch of pulse lasers, but ER lasers do mean that you get that extra range on there, which is quite surprising to some people still. The Mark III Tundra Wolf decides to go all out on the big guns, and it doesn't really care about the end result because it's going to be nasty anyways. You still have 19 double heat sinks on there, but the armor is reduced all the way down to 11 tons, and the ECM is also gone. It's basically a up-armored Warhammer at this point, especially with the weapon setup. It really mimics those Warhammers, those Marauders from the early days with an ER PPC and a pair of ER medium laser in each arm. A little bit more than what you'd have on a Marauder, but kind of close to what you have on some Warhammers out there. Supporting this is the old ER large laser, the Streak 4 tube of SRM, and a regular rack of 15 LRMs. So you have more guns than what you need and not enough armor to really survive anything. But with the sheer firepower this thing can bring to bear, people are going to regret engaging it in direct combat at least. The Mark IV came out in 3077 as some warriors wanting something that was a little bit more polyvalent in the front. It's a more balanced kind of model compared to what we had before here. The armor is brought back to 40.5 tons, so it's heavily armored once again, and you've got that ECM, so it's well defended, which is important on a mech this size in my opinion. The 9 Tomb of ATM is back as well, with the right arm now being composed of a pair of ER medium laser and a pair of anti-personnel Gauss rifle fed by a single ton of reload, which should be enough, at least for just 2 of them. You'll be able to take out infantry, you'll be able to take out targets at just about every range. ER medium lasers are quite efficient, but to round things out here, you get a pair of large pulse lasers, one over each shoulder, which is probably one of the best gun in the market. And this thing is going to be mobile enough. It's not super fast, but it's able to jump. It's able to use the mask to get in position. It's got enough weapons at all sorts of range to be a threat. It's probably one of the better Tundra Wolves. The Mark V came out in the early Republican era in 3086 and is completely different from the rest outside of the chassis and the 14.5 tons of plate. The engine is not augmented by mask and is actually downgraded to a 225XL, giving you a top speed of about 54 kilometers per hour, which is quite slow, I would say, at least for a clan mech in this range. It does, however, feature a Gauss rifle in each arm, backed by a pair of ER small laser in each one as well. The ER large laser is still on there, and you have a 4 tube of standard SRM, not Streak, and a 10 rack of standard LRMs on there as well for additional support. This turns the Tundra Wolf into a sniper and a pretty basic unit. It's not my favorite. With its mobility limitations here, it is not going to be able to catch up with the bad boys out there, and it's going to be trapped fairly easily. I much rather have a Mark IV, in my opinion. There is a custom Mark V floating around as well here, piloted by a samurai turned mercenary called Tina Matsurung. The Gauss rifles are actually swapped out with Ultra AC-10, reducing your range, but technically increasing your firepower if both it connects on those Ultras. For the remaining change in weight here, the ER small lasers are swapped out for larger ER medium lasers, which is quite decent, and you get 2 extra double heat sinks, which you might need since you increase the lasers to something a little bit bigger, and autocannons do generate a little bit more heat than the Gauss rifles. There is a few of those non-Omni-Mech totem mechs that started coming out at the end of the Jihad and the start of the Republican era, and many of them are more functional and a little bit less specialized than you would expect. Some of them are highly specialized, like the Shrike, but this Tundra Wolf here, it does a little bit of everything well enough that you can bring it in just about any situation, and it's going to be able to do quite well. Omnimax, you're always going to be able to specialize for what is going to happen, so that's an advantage that they have there. I don't always envy the pilots of those particular machines, mind you, because a lot of specialized Omnimax started coming out just about the same time, just a little bit later sometimes, and it supplanted a lot of those standard machines, and you've got a whole slew of new totem mechs that are floating around now that are full Omnimax. I'm not sure what the Wolves on Terra or Guyana are going to do with the Tundra Wolf. if they're going to put it back into production because, well, they've got the Savage Wolf and the War Wolf that they can build now that are full Omnimax in the exact same weight range. So maybe those things will become collector's item in the near future. So I hope you guys have a very nice rest of your day. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.